Welcome to Lesson 8.6, the Pythagorean Theorem. Today's objectives, I will be able to use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve real-world problems, and I will be able to identify the hypotenuse of a right triangle. Alright, so first things first, when you look at the Pythagorean Theorem, I will give you the theorem and explain to you what the formula means, but this picture helps give us an idea of how it came about. So if you look at A is 1, 2, 3 units long. And if you look at B, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 units long. So if I take A and I square it, so I take 3 rows of 3, and I take B and I square it, so 4 rows of 4, if I take those two things and put it together, it's going to give me C. But then if I take the square root of that, so in this case, 9 plus 16 gave me 25. If I take the square root of 25, I get 5, which is exactly how many units C is. This is kind of a confusing concept to understand, but this picture should help you out a little bit. Otherwise, as long as you can put the pieces together in the right place in the formula, you'll be just fine. Alright, so the legs in a right triangle are the two shortest sides of the triangle. This is good to know because when I talk about the triangle and talk about the legs versus the hypotenuse, you need to know what I'm talking about. The hypotenuse in a right triangle is the side that is opposite the right angle. It is also the longest side of a triangle. The Pythagorean theorem is a formula used to find the missing side lengths in the right triangles. The Pythagorean theorem states that if in any right triangle, the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs equals the square of the length of the hypotenuse. To make this plain and simple, if you take a squared plus b squared, it should give you c squared. Okay, so for your examples, you have to draw a right triangle. So for the legs, so here's your right triangle. Both of these are legs, and I'm actually just going to highlight them. This is a leg, and this is a leg. They are both adjacent to the right angle. They're touching the right angle. The hypotenuse is the side that does not touch the right angle at all. It's actually opposite of the right angle. So this side right here is the hypotenuse. You have this in your notes as well, so you'll want to fill out the pieces in your notes. Looks like this, so you should have leg, leg, hypotenuse. Just want to make sure I spell it right for you. And the Pythagorean theorem again is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. If a triangle is a right triangle, then the squares of the legs of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs. So again, here's a right triangle. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. But how does this help us in everyday life? I have a couple of problems for you that we'll go over. Okay, that will help you figure this out. However, we're going to do 2 practice problems just with triangles to start off, and then we'll go over to the real life problems. So both of these are the legs of the triangle. The legs of the triangle have to be your A and your B. So it has to be leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So in this case, 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 16 plus 9 equals 25, or equals c squared. So 25 is equal to c squared. Now, because we get to c squared and we want to get c all by itself, we have to take the square root of c and the square root of 25 to figure out what c is. So 5 is equal to c. So the length of this hypotenuse is 5 units. We'll try this one again. So I have leg and leg, so I have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. Now it doesn't matter which leg you put where. This could be A or this could be A, but C always has to be your hypotenuse. You always have to make sure to put those pieces in the right place. So in this case, we have 36 plus 64 equals c squared. 36 plus 64 gives us 100 is equal to c squared. Again, we take the square root of both sides, and we're left with 10 is equal to c. So the length of the hypotenuse is 10 units. Alright, so in real life, if you were to look at a roller coaster, if you knew from the base of the roller coaster to the center point below the highest point of the roller coaster, so from the base of the roller coaster to the center of the first hill is 180 feet. And you knew from that center to the top of the drop was 225 feet, you could figure out how high you would have to climb in order to get to that top point of the roller coaster. So how far are the people going from the bottom of that climb to the top of that climb? Okay, this could also help them figure out, well, how many feet of track do I need in order to get from the bottom to the top? So in this case, both of these are legs. 180 feet is a leg and 225 feet is a leg. So I have 180 squared plus 225 squared equals c squared. So we're trying to find the hypotenuse. We're trying to find c. For this, you are allowed to use a calculator, because I know these are big numbers and finding the square root is much easier to do with a calculator. So if I take 180 and square it, I get 32,400 plus 225 squared gives me 50,625, and those together will give me c squared. If I add those two numbers together, it gives me 83,025 is equal to c squared. And now I want the square root of both of these. So we're going to just round to the nearest foot here. So I got 288 and 140,591 millionths is equal to c. So we would just round that to 288 feet. So in order to get to the top of the drop, they would have to have 288 feet of track, and the people would be traveling 288 feet in the air. Alright, so to find the incline, or the height of a ladder, if you have 6 feet and 8 feet, those are both the legs. So again, you have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 36 plus 64 equals c squared. Now numbers like 6, 8, 2, 3, 4, I would expect that you have the squares of numbers 1 through 12 memorized. These you should be able to do in your head. I know that those together give me 100, and I know that the square root of 100 is 10. So the height of the ladder is 10 feet. If you memorize that 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64, 10 squared is 100, it's easier to find the square roots, and you will not always need a calculator. And it'll be very easy to look and see if you can solve that problem, if it is a perfect square, or if you have to get out a calculator and if your number is irrational or not. Okay, so in your notes you have that problem, and then this last problem has to do with crossing a pond. So if you know that from one end to the pond to the other is 41 feet, and you know from the point that you're standing to the point that you're trying to get to is 34 meters, meters, you can figure out how far you would have to boat across the pond to get from point B to point A. So your responsibility is to solve this problem tonight and to post your answer on Edmodo. If you have any questions, please make sure to post them on Edmodo or write them down and come with them tomorrow.